Bir sonraki sunumumuz Deepcrawl'dan Mark Thomas ile olacak. Deepcrawl, teknik SEO sorunlarına çözüm getirmek amacıyla yaratılmış olan bir araç. Şu anda kendi pazarına gerçekten çok iyi konumda. Burada birçok ajansla ve markada çalışan arkadaşlarımızın da günlük hayatında herhalde olmazsa olmazlarından birisidir. Mark Thomas bugün bize aksiyon odaklı bazı teknik SEO önerilerinden bahsedecek. Programın biraz gerisinde kaldığımız için soru cevap yapamadık bu sefer. Ama şöyle yapalım, Chain uygulaması üzerinden doğrudan doğruya bana sorularınızı iletirseniz ben bunlar arasından hemen seçimleri yapıp sunum sonunda Mark'a hızlıca 3 soru soracağım. O yüzden Chain'den mesajlarınızı bekliyorum. Teşekkürler. Thank you, Mark.
Good morning. Hi. Good morning. Thank you. I heard a Londoner over there, so that's great. Fantastic to be with you. I just want to extend my thanks to Yigit for inviting me along to speak today. We've enjoyed building relationships with many great organizations in Turkey, and long may it continue. And I hope this is useful today. So, we're going to begin. Now, the kind of theme of my presentation today is to leave you with 5 ideas of actionable tasks or activities that you can take back into your business. But I thought it's always worth framing some context on why this is important. So we'll begin with a quick look at why search remains so valuable in 2015. Some of you now may be aware of a PricewaterhouseCoopers report on the state of digital economy, ultimately. They call it Total Retail 2015. And this was actually published in February this year. So it will be published again in a few months' time. But there's some very interesting insights I think we should all be considering when we're deciding on our digital strategy. Okay, so the survey itself takes in 19 countries and nearly 20,000 respondents. And you'll be pleased to see that Turkey features in this, so hopefully there's a real relevance to your market too. Now, the shoppers that they survey, they ask a number of questions, and I would recommend that you go and look at this report in detail. But one of the first questions they ask people, and I'm sure you're familiar with this, is how many times do you browse a product in the store, but then go online to purchase? So certainly in the United States and the United Kingdom, and I'm sure it's ever increasing across the rest of Europe, that it's very frequent that people will go and have a look, they like to touch and feel, but then they'll go for the best price, perhaps, online. So the results were not surprising. 68% of people said, yep, that's been something that I do. I look in store, buy online. The second part of this, though, I don't think has had much publicity personally, which I feel is very interesting, which is how often have you browsed a product online, but then decided to go and buy it in store? So if you just consider that for a minute, so how often do you look online and then go to a store? And very surprisingly, it's almost exactly the same figure here. So we can see, I think most of us are very much familiar with the term showrooming, which is go to the showroom but then go and purchase online. But the concept of web rooming as well is very interesting, and I think that's one word that hopefully you learn today if you don't already know it. So people are actively researching online to then purchase. So search remains very crucial, and just how crucial? Well, 56% of respondents still suggest that the very first thing they do is go online to research before they purchase a product. So hopefully we're all convinced that you're in the right room today. Now, something I was also quite interested in, and I think Marcus has described very amazingly in detail, just this transition and the shift away from backlinks, particularly we've seen this in countries where Google is so powerful. But here we use Google Trends data over the last 10 years to look at how the term backlinks has started to reduce and drop towards 2015. Now, if I overlay that with the search for content marketing, those of you that are here tomorrow are obviously going to be in the right room too, that we can see content marketing is very much filling the void. No surprise. I think everyone understands backlinks are on the way down, content is up. Fine. This slide I like the most. The term SEO compared to content marketing and backlinks. So it's a very stable kind of performance over the last 5, 6, 7 years. It remains absolutely crucial to have great technical structure, technical SEO for your websites. It's fundamental to the kind of digital performance of your business. So today I'm going to look at on-the-page factors, and I'll be referring to it as technical SEO. And just so I'm clear about what that means, I thought it was useful to bring and show you the Search Engine Land periodic table of SEO success factors. So the area I'm going to be talking about today is on the left-hand side, so the on-the-page factors. I think, obviously, Marcus is very good at naming his products, so I'm going to be naming his products all morning. So this is the area we're going to look at. And if I break those down for you, we're looking at content, architecture, and HTML. Okay, so this is going to be very much the technical focus of the presentation. This starts off very easy, and it gets harder, so we'll see how we get on. Okay, so I was trying to remember why does SEO matter? So I asked Google this question. And we can see a result here at the top from a website called Growth Lightning. I was quite impressed. I kind of expected to see Moz or something else, but I thought I'll have a look, see what's behind this result. So I visited the website. So why does SEO matter? Top 5 reasons why SEO matters to you. Okay, interesting, nice website, quite something to look at. But then I kind of, me being me, decided, let's have a look at this website in some technical detail. How good is the technical SEO promotion site actually itself? So I ran a crawl, and we call this a crawl. So this is using our product to Deepcrawl to actually look at the performance of the website. And there's a couple of things I want to point out here. So what we're actually seeing in this pie chart is the kind of efficiency of this website. So 67% of the pages on the website live today are unique, which is a good score. We kind of think any site that's showing about 2/3 of the website being unique is in a good position. Anything above that is typically pretty healthy. So that was good. But I was interested by these non-200 status codes, so particularly the 400 errors. So I can show you here that there were 8. So I thought, well, you know, let's have a look at these and see what they are. So I had a quick look into the list of these 400 errors. So I hope you can see this from the back. But I have a list of 8 different pages that are broken. And suddenly my eyes lit up when I looked at Found At, and I saw that there's a broken page on the Growth Lightning, top 5 reasons why SEO matters. This page that's performing so well, but the story gets better. So the page links, so the link that's actually broken is to marketing. So I was kind of interested. So I clicked through in Deepcrawls, having a look to see, well, you know, what's the call to action? What's the actual anchor text for this particular button? So I looked at the links into this broken page, and I'm seeing it's here. So stay with the journey with me. So I'm seeing broken page on this great performing site that they've got, and it's here. So let's obviously click here for something. So let's have a look at the user experience. Back to the website. I scroll down. Traffic. Enough said. Must be a British guy. And his first call to action: if traffic means a lot to you and to your website, then you'd better get serious about implementing SEO on your website. You can get a free analysis and quote here. Broken. So amusing. So why does SEO matter? Well, this guy's wasting a lot of traffic coming through to his site, clearly. She, perhaps. So there's clearly something that's going on there. I won't spin this out too long. I then thought, well, why do 404s matter? Of course, you know, do they matter? Yes, Google will tell you that they do matter. So you can go and research that later if you're unclear on that. And that took me to the next site, obviously the top performing site. And once again, straight in there, I wanted to have a look and see are they practicing what they're preaching? So again, the efficiency of this website based on the pie chart in the middle is still, it's okay, but it's crept way below 50% of the site is unique. But we see, again, broken pages on the site. So technical SEO is very difficult. And I think what certainly came across from Marcus's presentation to me earlier is just the number of factors that you have to consider. And even sites that have performed very well in search results have small things potentially that are letting them down. So these are some of the easy things, hopefully, to go and fix. I promise I'm going to go and tell these websites that they have problems now that I've humiliated them publicly, but I'm a good guy, really. Now, a second chart that I want to bring your attention to is just, ultimately, it's one I made up. But the key point that we're seeing time and again with our customers is that a healthy website architecture in a competitive space delivers huge kind of exponential return, but particularly if your health is in the sort of top echelon. So if you're a very healthy website, the commercial performance online will meet that. And I think we all understand that. Hopefully you know that. So what do the world's top experts say? Somebody I'm particularly familiar with and fond of is Erin Everhart of the Home Depot in the US. They have very, very good site architecture at Home Depot. And I love this quote from Search Engine Land from Erin, which is, even a basic understanding of what to look for in technical SEO can get you so far. So many people today focus too heavily on off-the-page SEO, but if a site is technically flawed, it won't matter how many links you have or how good your content is. Okay, so I try and convey the idea that your website, your architecture of your website, whether that's on a mobile, desktop, it's where every campaign, your paid advertising is pointing back to the content that you have available. And that information retrieval that Google needs to do from your website is crucial to the performance of your commercial organization. Now, Erin kind of moves on, and I want to start moving towards some of these actions and recommendations of things to look at. But one thing, not only do we as SEOs have the challenge of so many moving parts to consider and so many opportunities to optimize our sites, that's quite overwhelming. But the second thing is, we're also data people who have enormous numbers of metrics at our disposal as well. Communicating your performance to your organization is difficult. The best advice I've seen is just to keep your metrics very simple. And I would recommend that you consider these if you're reading this today. So look at your organic revenue. What are your visits compared to last month? How is that performing? And how's your year-on-year performance? Okay, so I think that's just a helpful way of considering it. But not only do you need to focus on what to fix, but just focus the feedback that's coming into the business. Okay, so moving on to a second expert, we look at what John Mueller has to say. So again, his name will get mentioned a lot today, I would imagine. The biggest problems we have are tech problems. Often webmasters are trying to be too clever and give confusing signals. Send clear, consistent, and obvious signals. So this is from John's keynote at SMX Israel last year. But everyone is confusing Google. Google is working way too hard for their liking, and that is not good for your liking either. Okay, now, everybody who works in my profession, so selling crawl software, was delighted to see this Webmaster Central Hangout just less than a month ago, or just over a month now. So if you go and watch this Hangout, John actually is now starting to recommend for people to go beyond Search Console. So Search Console gives you limited data. John is actually recommending, and he actually recommends using crawler software externally to Search Console to look for issues. So go and watch this yourself. 16th of October, John Mueller recommends. And this was a quote that I've just taken from what he says. We get kind of lost crawling all these unnecessary URLs, and we might not be able to crawl your new updated content. So Google is spending time crawling, in many and most cases, content that is useless to them. I shall just check the time. Good. Okay. So, thanks, John. So I'm going to show you a case study now, just looking at a particular website in Turkey that I've studied just very briefly. It didn't take me a lot of time, but you'll see there's some quite big insights that come from this straight away. So I was thinking again, right, what shall I do? Try to avoid the cliche of tourism. So I thought, Yigit will sort me out. He'll take me to all the best places. I don't need to worry about sightseeing. But I thought, I'm a tourist, I need to go and buy something, get some good deals. It's Black Friday, we need some deals. So I was looking at jeans. I always remember that Levi's were made in Turkey when I was a kid. I seem to remember that. So I thought, right, where should I go? So I end up on this Foursquare site. I have a hunt around. And in the end, I know it's kind of a mid-tier range, I think. I don't own any Mavi. Is it Mavi? Maybe? Mavi? Mavi. Okay. So I ended up on this website. I won't tell you the rest of the story. Not the women's bit, obviously. That was... Should have had the men's picture. So I like buying women's jeans. So I ended up on this website, and I thought, well, where do I start for a technical audit of this particular site? And that is a good question. I've watched many things at PubCon and so forth where people are giving their professional opinion on where to start. But the first place that we would recommend to start is with a crawl of a site. And John suggested we do that. So the final basic point is, if you're wondering what crawling is, I hope no one is, but just in case, crawling is the process of systematically fetching and retrieving every page on your website, following every link, very much as Marcus was just describing. So Deepcrawl is a software, as on Pages, and there are many others in the market now. But we're imitating Googlebot to then repeat that process on a website that you decide, and then a rich report is available at the end showing these opportunities to fix issues. Many of these issues Google just do not tell you. So things like duplicate pages, there is no good duplicate pages report in Search Console. So if you're trying to understand where you have duplication, external software is very helpful. Okay, now a concept that we think is very important to understand, and if you are working for an agency, speaking to your clients, we describe crawling as discovery. Okay, so this is just a simple analogy to remember. No one knows what is going to happen when you start crawling your site or what you're going to uncover. I've never, in the thousands of these conversations with new clients, I've never seen somebody who isn't surprised by what is uncovered on their website. Okay, so one very simple and embarrassing truth. If you start pitching for new business, I always ask this question. It's a very nice question. How many pages do you have on your website? Okay, nobody knows. Nobody knows. It's very difficult. You know, it's not. It's just hard. They've got no ideas what issues are lurking below the surface. So we return to Mavi. We're going to take off, and I'm going to use an illustration of Bob Anders here. This guy was one of the first astronauts on Apollo 8, which was that spacecraft we saw. And he took this very famous photograph. This is the first time. It's called Earthrise. Hopefully the translator can translate that one. But Earthrise is the name of this photo. So it was the first time from the lunar landscape, from Apollo 8, there was this beautiful picture of the Earth that we're all now so familiar with. But at the time, it was very important. It was the moment, I think, that we humans realized that we have a blue planet. You know, rather than a green or a brown planet. Blue planet, absolutely. So this is the first time you start to get this vision. And imagine this is your website. Crawling is going to be the first time you probably get this kind of feeling of, you know, what is my sort of planet like? So establish a clear picture. And then you need to consider how your website is fitting into the universe. So again, I'm not going to get too much into a space theme today, but the URL universe is vast. As John is telling you, they're working very hard to look at your websites, to try and correct mistakes you're making without you having to do things, but there is a limit, and they reach that limit. So back to Mavi. I ran a crawl. I ran a sample, so I just looked at the first 50,000 pages that I was retrieving. And you remember earlier that we were looking at the kind of efficiency in the pie chart here. So I'll point over. So we're looking at that green strip is a very, very small percentage of unique content. And Googlebot, in theory, is having to crawl all of the gray, non-indexable, other instructions that you're giving it, canonical tags. It's having to crawl every page to find the no-index tag, to find the canonical tag. So it's having to work very hard to find that information. And the ratio of unique pages to the work that Googlebot's doing is very high. Now, if you are technical here, this is where we start to get more technical. I started to probe into these canonicals and actually start to understand that web crawler software doesn't drop a cookie, so often you can start to append session IDs into the structure of a URL. So in theory, actually, there aren't as many pages as this, but for web crawlers, there are. This is complicated. It's a solution. We're here to talk later if you're interested in learning a lot more. However, I'm going to explain more of that in a minute. Coming to my second tip, so first tip was to crawl. Second tip is just to pick 5 wins from each audit that you run. So when you're communicating back to the business, one big challenge you have is, nothing gets implemented. It goes back to back of a development queue. I'm making all these same recommendations I made 6 months ago. You have to be careful not to just give a huge, huge long list of everything that can be fixed, because there are usually so many things. But pick 3 things that can be fixed quickly and 2 things to concentrate on in the long term. Okay, so back to this report. So let's pick my 5. I'm aware here that I've got very thin content, which is obviously a huge risk from a Panda perspective. So lots and lots of thin pages. So there's not much content compared to the size of the HTML. So when you visit those pages, you'll see there's nothing there, which can look very spammy. I've got a lot of duplicate pages, so I'd be taking a look at those. I see my friend's 400 errors, so I want to see which pages are broken. This is bad for user experience as well as for search engines. I'm looking at the canonical setup, as we've mentioned. And I'm also very aware, in this example, if you can see this from the back, that whilst I've crawled 50,000 pages, Deepcrawl is telling me that they found another 3 million pages to crawl next. So of a website that I think is actually probably only about 10,000 pages, we're now seeing millions and millions and millions of pages potentially being created. So this is a big challenge. So what's the story with the canonical tags? Where's the problem? Now, again, if you're not familiar with the canonical tag, and I'll read this from Webmaster Central, once again, the canonical link in your web page is a strong hint to search engines about your preferred version to index amongst duplicate pages on the web. The canonical tag is very powerful, can cause lots of problems. There are some great articles from Google about the risks. I would really suggest you read them. If you make a mistake and mess your canonical tags, they can end up all being ignored. So it's important that you configure them correctly. And this is Google again. They can be a bit tricky because it's not very obvious when they're misconfigured. So back to Mavi. I now take a look at the first example of a canonical tag in this list of 38,000. And I can see that there's a canonical taking me from this Gene Erkek range. And the canonical is pointing, so I'm being told as a search engine, don't worry about me, pass all the authority to this page. And in here we can see there's a session ID, okay? So the canonical setup is passing all of the PageRank authority to a session ID page. So I then go and have a look at this page, session ID page. So I've just run an info search, okay? So info tells me everything about the history of this URL, where it is, and gives me the result. And I get one result, which shows me, and I don't know if you can read this from the back, a description for this result is not available because of this site's robots.txt. So the canonical is pointing to this page, but actually in search results, there's no description because it's being blocked in the robots.txt of this site. So this is like an all-time, I was like, when I found this example, I was kind of intrigued because it's one of the worst sort of, it's a bad mistake. It can happen very easily. I know many people who've done this, but you can see here, slightly lower down, that the session ID is blocking Google from crawling this page. So if you're not familiar with robots.txt, this is probably the most powerful directive because you're telling Googlebot not to crawl. You're disallowing the crawler from even looking at these pages. So they can't crawl to get the descriptions or any other signals from that page. Okay, so they're pointing their rel canonical to a disallowed URL. The rel canonical, we see plenty of examples where they're pointing to broken pages, redirects, multiple canonicals to the same page, all sorts of problems. So it's very important, and we'll come on to this in a minute, but it's important to audit your canonical tags and make sure they're working correctly. Hopefully this is a bit more advanced and interesting than some stuff you might see. Okay, so I then looked at how many pages in Google's index have been indexed through other reasons, because a disallow doesn't mean that, it means that the page can't be crawled, but it doesn't mean that it can't be in the index, because it might be coming from a different link or shared elsewhere or seen elsewhere. So we see one result here, but I also read that Google's saying there's many more instances. There's actually 23,000 instances of Mavi.com with session IDs sitting in the index. Okay, so this wasn't a one-time problem. These URLs are there. You can go and have a look if you're interested, and you'll see this particular problem. So then I was wondering, well, how much of a problem is this for Google? Because actually, if you run a site colon search for Mavi.com, Google are finding a way around the problem, but it's just a question of what other damage that's doing to your organization, to your website, from that work that they're doing. So they actually, in site colon, only return about 15,000 results, rather than the millions of pages we're seeing being created. But Google here have got 113 million examples of session IDs in URL. So in URL, so this is just how many times a J session ID appear in URLs. And this is many, many times that Google is wasting precious resource looking at pages like this. So it's a common enough problem. So tip number 3 was to audit your canonical tags very frequently. Now the last point, if again you're not familiar with robots.txt, if you're not familiar with crawling, just something to take away is your robots.txt file holds a lot of power. Usually the SEO in your organization or you hold the keys to the robots.txt file. If by mistake you disallow your whole website, you won't notice for 3 or 4 days, but then you will, because it will go like this, performance. So you should be monitoring how your robots.txt file is being edited. And we actually offer a free tool that you can go and try today. If you visit roboto.org, it actually alerts you if any developers, if anyone changes anything in your robots.txt file, it will alert you immediately. So in the UK, we've seen examples of Selfridges, one of the most famous retail stores, disallowing their whole website. We've seen examples of the Guardian newspaper disallow their whole website very easily in robots.txt because it's a simple / error that you can leave in there that causes major, major problems. Okay, so the last point that I want to make before I finish up is just to show you, right, what would I do to fix the issue that Mavi were experiencing? Well, one thing I would do in the short term to block a whole sequence of patterns of URLs, and this is a very interesting concept that you may have seen John Mueller has been speaking on it, we've been speaking on it, but there is actually an instruction that you can use in your robots.txt file to actually no index from your robots.txt file. It's a very quick, and it's a bit of a quick and dirty tactic, but if you no index all of these pages, they will be removed from the index within about a week, maybe a couple of weeks. So this is a quick fix. It doesn't solve the root of the problem, but it's a way to get these URLs away from the index. We've seen other people having success removing and blocking with a no index in robots, significant problems where they've got bloat of URLs that are in the index that they want to remove. Come and talk to me about this. My colleague Tristan will be delivering a workshop, and I'll point this to you. On Sunday, he's going to be talking about this in a lot more detail. The second thing we need to do is obviously to fix the canonical tag and point to this clean URL, pass the authority to this page. They've obviously got an issue with the way that these canonical tags are created. So as I mentioned, Tristan, my colleague, will be speaking on Sunday, and he's going to be looking at how to create, how to kind of achieve perfect indexing. So what's the right number of URLs to have in the index? How do you control that? So if you're interested, I would recommend you to see that session. Okay, and the final tip is just a general one, really. But your organizations, to be the most successful, to be the, I guess, top performing in search results, we all know how much difference it means to have an effective ranking performance. That's why you'll talk to Searchmetrics and all these other people looking at the performance of your sites. The sites that are performing the most effectively are those that optimize everything that they can. So this should be part of the process that's fitting into your organization, excuse me, and I would just highly implore you to go and, if you're not already, go and take a look at your site and then look for the opportunities to optimize it effectively. Okay, and the last slide I'll just show you on Mavi. On the bottom row here, I'm not sure you'll be able to see it, but to crawl the 50,000 URLs that I crawled at first, for the first report, it took me 16 hours of crawl time processing. When I identified the issues and went and removed them in my crawl setup, pretty much probably how Google was doing it, it reduced my crawl time to 6 hours, and I ended up discovering 14,000 pages, which is much more similar to the site search results that we saw in Google. So hopefully this isn't too complicated, but what I'm saying here is that if you are achieving effective architecture, the chances are that your content is going to be seen and retrieved by Google far more effectively than if you've got a bloaty, messy website. Okay, so five points in summary. Crawl your website. Pick out only 5 actions per audit. Audit your canonical tags. Test out Roboto. Make sure you're tracking your robots TXT file. And optimize your crawl efficiency. Thank you very much. Hope today goes well.
Thanks, Mark. We have some questions. Yeah. We are collecting questions from Chain app, so you can ask questions to me directly over that. Do you have any plan to advise SEO revision automated by Deepcrawl in the features? Deepcrawl can recommend a revision to the website owners. Currently, SEO consultants get the data, analyze them, and then creating advices for the brands. And what's next?
Okay, excellent question. No, we don't have any plans. And I'll tell you why. I think strategically, we've always positioned the business to be the friend of the SEO consultant, so the agencies. So we consider that the SEO agencies really should be delivering the advice on what to fix. It's highly subjective as well what to fix with a website. So, sorry, get a long answer.
No.
So we want the SEO agent to be the expert that offers that advice. We give you the resource and the information. It's down to you then to interpret it as an organization. The second thing is it's highly subjective as to what to fix. And this is where SEO can be very grey, is that you can go and fix many, many issues and actually not see spikes in results. It can be down to aligning with the business objectives that you have as to what's most important. We just don't feel that you can get one size that fits all for that. So we strategically decided not to do it for those 2 reasons.
Okay, next question as well. the funny question, Mavi is getting SEO support or not? Maybe you know from your Deepcrawl account.
Somebody should be. I think someone should give him a call. No, I did ask Yigit if anyone was coming from Mavi.com.
Yeah.
Is anyone here from Mavi.com?
Maybe it's a new sales prospect for SEO agencies in here.
Yeah, it's a good sales prospect.
I hope that their agency is not in here.
Yeah.
Okay, what's the recommendations? Short crawl or full crawl?
Okay, so crawling is discovery, as we said. So you don't know what you're going to find. You should do a small crawl first. Mm-hmm. So I ran a sample of 50,000 pages because I really learned within 50,000 pages how the site was structured and what the problems were. I could have wasted millions of credits, so I could have crawled millions of pages, spent a lot of money, spent a lot of time waiting for the results, and I wouldn't have learned anything more than I did after 50,000. When you learn how a site's performing, I would then reconfigure and then crawl as I did. So I crawled the whole thing in the end.
Yeah, yeah. Okay, that's all.
Yeah.
Thank you again.
No worries. Thank you very much. Thank you.